Good day and welcome to the News Roundup for Thursday, February 9. I am Abigail Smythe. Among the stories in this evening's newscast, Jamaica's agricultural sector registers its highest ever domestic crop production output. Government to begin enrollment under pilot phase of NIDS later this month. Fisherman stabbed to death following alleged dispute over sugar cane. 20 people taken into police custody in Mandeville following operation in search of human trafficking and murder suspects. In business, International Monetary Fund expects inflation to be back within Bank of Jamaica's target range by end of year. In the region, rainfall to decrease as heart of dry season approaches. Further overseas, proposal to let Massachusetts prisoners trade organs and bone marrow for reduced sentences raises ethical and legal questions. And in sports, first test between West Indies and Zimbabwe ends in a draw.
Teach them! Always make sure the message reach them!
Now for the news in detail. A total of 20 people were taken into police custody following a joint operation in Mandeville in search of human trafficking, shooting, and murder suspects on Thursday. A police source says about 5 a.m., a team comprising the Mandeville Police, Counterterrorism and Organized Crime Branch CTOC, and the Passport Immigration and Citizenship Agency PICA swooped down on a location in Balvenie, a few minutes from Mandeville's town center. 12 people were taken into custody. The source notes that the authorities arrested the individuals in relation to an alleged human trafficking operation. Hours later, about 8:30 a.m., police raided an apartment on Rosedale Drive where 8 people, including 2 men listed as persons of interest in murders and shooting incidents in Clarendon, were arrested. A woman is among those detained. Police are also searching for a group of men who ran from the apartment. A fisherman was stabbed to death following an alleged dispute over sugar cane in Farquhar District, Clarendon on Wednesday. The deceased has been identified as 53-year-old O'Neill Greenswood, also known as Pangola, of said district. It is reported that about 9:30 p.m., Greenswood and another man were at a sports bar along Farquhar Beach when they got into a quarrel. Greenswood, who plants sugar cane, was approached by his alleged attacker, who presented $500 and requested some sugar cane. The police say the request was denied and the man subsequently used a knife to stab Greenswood in the left side of his neck before fleeing the scene on foot. Greenswood then attempted to chase his alleged attacker but collapsed along the roadway some 30 feet from the bar. The police were summoned and Greenswood was found face down in a pool of blood. Community members are appealing to the alleged attacker to turn himself in as soon as possible to prevent any possible act of reprisal. The parish of Clarendon has recorded 11 murders up to January 29. A Denham Town man who was reportedly abducted from his home was found dead with gunshot wounds in an open lot off Spanish Town Road in Kingston Thursday morning. The deceased has been identified as 45-year-old Fitzroy Davidson, otherwise called Peter, an employee of a cement company. Reports are that Wednesday night, Davidson was at home on Little King Street in Denham Town when gunmen invaded the house and abducted him. A search for Davidson was then launched by family members. Davidson's father was distraught after the discovery of his son's body. He described the deceased as hardworking and someone who would avoid trouble. The Independent Commission of Investigations, INDICOM, has revealed that 2022 is the third consecutive year since 2019 that police fatal shootings have increased. According to the Commission's latest quarterly report, the police are responsible for a total of 120 of 134 fatalities recorded for the period. Of that amount, 16 of the fatalities were concerned with officers who were off duty. The report further states that the number of fatalities is 2 more people than in 2021, which represents an increase of under 1% over last year. Meanwhile, the Jamaica Defence Force, JDF, were involved in a slightly reduced number of shooting deaths than 2021, with a total of 7 fatal shootings for 2022. Indicom says this equates to 2 less persons than in 2021 and 5 less than 2020. The Commission adds that the Department of Correctional Services, DCS, was involved in 2 fatal shootings in 2022. Both victims were unarmed, attempted escapees, but one further escapee was shot and wounded. The report summarized that 7 more people were shot and killed last year than in 2021, representing an increase of 6%. There is also a 40% increase in the number of non-fatal shooting incidents, which is the highest figure in the past 5 years. Overall, the security forces discharged their weapons on 151 days, resulting in 134 citizens being killed and 95 being injured. The defense team for Constable Noel Maitland has indicated that it intends to renew his bail application on June 12. Maitland, who is charged with the murder of social media personality Donnelly Donaldson, was denied bail last October. Attorney Chadwick Berry made the announcement in the Home Circuit Court Thursday morning after a plea and case management hearing failed to get underway. When the matter was called up, the prosecution informed the court that 4 statements were outstanding. The prosecution also informed the court that it is awaiting material from the Communication Forensic and Cybercrime Division of the Jamaica Constabulary Force. Prior to adjourning the hearing, Justice Vinette Graham Allen ordered that all outstanding material be disclosed on or before May 6. And regarding the case, the public is still disgruntled.
I feel so sad. Sad sound too good. Me heart broke, me hurt. You come like my own child, my own daughter, my own one daughter when I have. Every court day, me left me a pen and come here so just to get justice, we see justice served. To the Lux family, the Donaldson family, we the protesters and the onlookers on social media who said justice for Donnelly and all the other young girls who have lose their lives. We need justice. A time now for action. Too much talking, my brother. Too much talking. Every day talking and no action. A time for action now. We belly hot we. It come like we don't have no belly left. We numb. We cry too much. We cry night. We cry day. We need justice. We need justice. Every time I look at this woman, I feel her pain like it's my own daughter. And it's time now for justice to be served.
When I heard that this girl got missing, I was in the States and I cried. I don't know her and I cried because she looked like my 3rd daughter. My 3rd daughter is just looking like her. You understand? And I feel the pain. My belly burn me. Yeah, man, we have no system, no justice system in Jamaica. The justice system is only for the big people there. You understand? The man them up high.
Are you a relative?
No, I'm not a relative, but I support and I have 3 girls. And any man try to put them hand on my daughter, I will take the revenge myself.
Members of the Jamaica Constabulary Force, JCF, will be outfitted with new uniforms this year. Commissioner of Police, Major General Anthony Anderson, says they are in the process of changing the current uniform to one that is more fit for purpose, functional, and technologically enhanced. He says this will allow members to benefit from the advances made in police uniform technology available in first world jurisdictions and is consistent with the modernization program of the JCF. The police uniforms will be equipped with body armor, body-worn cameras, and weapons, which were significantly delayed due to the COVID-19 pandemic. Additionally, General Anderson says JCF will expand the station records management system and case management system to all divisions. He says all divisional headquarters and several other facilities should be connected to the systems by the end of the year. He notes that this will greatly improve the efficiency with which the police will take reports from the public and follow up with investigations. The Commissioner adds that the quick response team has been expanded in St. Catherine North, St. Andrew North, St. Elizabeth, St. James, and the Public Safety and Traffic Enforcement Branch PSTEB, as they recently acquired new motorcycles and motorcycle drivers, allowing for more prompt responses in the areas. Jamaica's agricultural sector registered its highest ever domestic crop production output in 2022. Minister of Agriculture Pernell Charles Jr. says the sector logged production of over 840,000 tons, higher than every other year on record.
2021 saw Jamaica with its highest recorded level of production, 770,456 tons. 2022 saw 4 consecutive quarters of growth, with Jamaica for the first time ever surpassing 800,000 tons, with 846,508 tons of domestic crop.
And while the parish of St. Elizabeth is the largest producer of domestic crops in the island, Minister Charles commended the farmers of Trelawney for their work in making the parish the second largest producer of domestic crops. The efforts of the almost 24 registered farmers in the parish have contributed to yam accounting for 76% of the parish's total domestic crop production for 2022. Minister Charles was speaking Wednesday at the launch of the Hague Agricultural and Industrial Show in Trelawney.
Have come second as the second largest producer in Jamaica of domestic crop, 137,575 tons, more than 21,000 tons more than the third place parish, Manchester.
Minister Charles notes that currently the demand for Jamaica's yams is so high that there is a challenge in producing enough for the export market. In the meantime, the minister credits the country's high domestic crop production output to the ministry's increasing innovation and the provision of materials and technical assistance to farmers. The government will begin enrollment under the pilot phase of the National Identification System NIDS later this month. Minister with responsibility for NIDS, Floyd Green, says key elements of the pilot have been fine-tuned to ensure the enrollment is seamless. Participants in the pilot will have their pictures and fingerprints taken and will be able to give feedback based on the procedure. Minister Green notes that the detection of issues with the system at this stage will allow the government to make the necessary changes before the NIDS is launched nationally. He says the Secretariat has completed the penetration test to ensure the software is secure. Minister with responsibility for water, Matthew Samuda, says Jamaica is currently experiencing a meteorological drought. He says inflows are below outflows and there are depletions in the major systems. He advises that in coming weeks the government will announce the steps to be taken in response to the drought. This, he says, will include national public education. In the meantime, Jamaicans are being urged to conserve on their use of water and to report leaks to the National Water Commission. More men can now access prostate cancer screening at a reduced cost through a subsidy being provided by the National Health Fund, NHF, under its Individual Benefits Program. The NHF launched the Prostate-Specific Antigen PSA test benefit, which is aimed at encouraging more men to get the life-saving test. The NHF will provide a $1,600 subsidy to enable persons to have one PSA test per year. Contracts were signed with 3 participating labs, Central Medical, Biomedical, and Fleet Diagnostic, which will partner with the NHF to carry out the testing. Minister of Health and Wellness Dr. Christopher Tufton says too many men discover that they have the disease when it is too late, and the objective is to ensure early screening, diagnosis, and treatment. Dr. Tufton points out that only 28% of men 40 years and over have ever had a digital rectal examination, and of the 5.1% of men 40 years and older who have been sent by healthcare provider for PSA screening, only 1.9% report having done the test. In business news, the board of the International Monetary Fund, IMF, says it expects inflation to be back within the Bank of Jamaica's target range of 4.6% by the end of 2023. The board says over the past few years, Jamaica has been battered by a difficult global environment from the COVID-19 pandemic, the war in Ukraine, and the ongoing tightening of global financial conditions. However, it says the authorities' response to recent shocks has been well designed. It notes that the Bank of Jamaica has followed a data-dependent tightening of monetary policy to counter the inflationary impulse arising from the rapid recovery in demand and increases in global prices. Though the global risks remain high, it says the policies have struck the right balance in responding to shocks, protecting the vulnerable, countering inflationary pressures, and further securing debt sustainability. In the region, the Barbados-based Caribbean Drought and Precipitation Monitoring Network, CDPMN, says as the region moves into the heart of its dry season, rainfall will continue to decrease. It states that with the likelihood of normal to below normal rainfall in the northwest of the Caribbean during February to April 2023, this can result in short and long-term drought by the end of April and May respectively, particularly in Cuba. It says, like Cuba, interests in Hispaniola, parts of the Leeward Islands, Puerto Rico, and St. Vincent should closely monitor their water resources over the coming months, since long-term drought can impact large rivers and groundwater. The CDPMN notes that short-term drought up to the end of March is evolving across western Cuba, and that short-term drought might possibly develop in Antigua, eastern Cuba, Guadeloupe, northern Hispaniola, southwest Puerto Rico, and St. Kitts. It adds that long-term drought up to the end of May might possibly develop or continue in St. Vincent, western Cuba, and the Dominican Republic. And on the international scene, a proposal to let Massachusetts prisoners donate organs and bone marrow to shave time off their sentence is raising profound ethical and legal questions about putting undue pressure on inmates desperate for freedom. The bill, which faces a steep climb in the Massachusetts State House, may run afoul of federal law, which bars the sale of human organs or acquiring one for valuable consideration. It also raises questions about whether and how prisons would be able to appropriately care for the health of inmates who go under the knife to give up organs. The bill would create a bone marrow and organ donation program within the State Department of Correction to allow incarcerated individuals to receive a reduction in their sentence of between 60 days and a year on the condition that they have donated bone marrow or organs. Critics are calling the idea coercive and dehumanizing, even as one of the bill's sponsors is framing the measure as a response to the over-incarceration of Hispanic and Black people and the need for matching donors in those communities. Democratic State Rep. Judith Garcia, one of the sponsors of the bill, said it was filed in response to what she called the health inequities stemming from the vicious cycle of unjust incarceration and over-policing of Black and brown communities. She adds that Black and Hispanic communities are at higher risk for health conditions that might require organ donation, and discriminatory incarceration rates eliminate many likely donor matches from the pool, leading to longer wait lists for African Americans compared to white individuals. And finally, in sports, rain has delayed the start of Day 2 of the 4-day West Indies Championships between the Jamaica Scorpions and defending champions Barbados Pride at the Coolidge Cricket Ground in St. John's, Antigua. The Pride will resume on 89 for 2, replying to 140 made by the Jamaica Scorpions in their first innings. Jamie Merchant was the top scorer for the Scorpions with 35 and Tevin Gilzine with 32. In the meantime, West Indies captain Craig Brathwaite says his team will waste no time, turning their focus on the second test against Zimbabwe from February 12 to 16. The first test ended Wednesday in a draw, and Brathwaite says despite not winning the game, there's a high level of confidence in the team that they can win the series. West Indies set 272 to win in a minimum of 49 overs. The hosts reached 134 4-for-6 when time expired. The result meant that the two-match series remained level at 0-0. And that's it for your news roundup for today. I am Abigail Smythe. Have a good evening and see you next time.
Teach them! Hey, yo, hello! Send the message and make it reach them. It's teach them. Right here, Warlord representing.
Thank you for watching. Like the video before you go. Please subscribe if you haven't done so. And remember to share the video with your friends and family. And browse the channel for more quality content. Until next time, walk good, my friends.
Teach them!